Hey, welcome back to the iSpooge Daily channel. This is B-side, experimental, personal brand, alternative personal. Format's always changing. Obviously right now I'm trying to make the experience more valuable to the watchers, but I'm still trying to offer, my unique perspective, and my one take, no fake format is my favorite. However, I find it's useful to... So for one, I get a lot of ideas about streams I could do. Two, I'm habit driven and haven't gotten into the habit of doing streams every day since I first started the channel in like 2018, end of 17, beginning of 18. So yeah, I'm starting to write down stream idea and then whatever notes I have, and then put that into the description box and then review it before the stream. Sorry about the last stream where I said like and way too much. It's a habit I've broken before. I might also start putting notes after stream, notes, things I could do better, etc. I did that yesterday, so I don't make any money off this, so I'm not sitting here committing to all these things. But yeah, it's just, since I don't talk to anybody and I'm really hated by pretty much everybody due to these smear campaigns. If you don't know what a smear campaign is, go ahead and look up some channels and share what you find and like in the comments. I don't want to sit here and tell you what to do and try to, be a community leader or anything like that. Like, I don't want to be a YouTuber at all. So I just, it's therapeutic for me to be able to talk through what's happening, and in a sense, it is a response to smear campaigns, but you have to be crafty in how you respond to them, or not. So the title of the video, respond to a smear campaign or not. So basically I respond to smear campaigns or not depending on the stakes, whether it's a manager, an employer, which is often different than the manager, one employer, manager, employee, right? Parent, old friend or brother, friend so close to like a brother, and anyone else. So for a manager, raise the issue to the employer. Obviously, that's rocking the boat and bad things happen. That was the situation with OpenTable. Two, employer. So now the employer's usually going to take the manager's side. So it might not be a great idea to, there might be channels. Like, I found later in my notes that OpenTable has a whistleblower, this or that thing that it's just in my notes. It seems like something I reviewed. So that'd be useful to get a copy of that document. Parent, raise issue to the family. Old friend or brother, raise issue within the friend circle. Anyone else, log behavior and don't respond. Now, those raising issues to this person, that person, etc., pretty much doesn't work, because the smear campaign isn't something that is like, the switch is thrown and the smear campaign starts. They start blasting out to everybody how awful you are. No, they start planting little seeds in their head about how you have this quirk, that quirk, this little way about you, that little way about you. These things add up and compound over time, and then finally when something, they go into the discard phase. If you don't know the phases of narcissistic abuse, there's like 4 or so. You can go ahead and look that up on YouTube. Best resource on earth right now. So there's the ideation stage, which is, where they come in, they build you up, they love bomb you. And then there's the fog, they get in there and confuse you, and they're devaluing you subtly, similar to the smear campaign. It's subtle to other people. They're also devaluing you to you. And then, it's just making you weak, making your boundaries contract, putting your behavior off. They might gaslight you before you interact with people they've been smearing you to, subtly, just dropping little things. Oh, I don't want to gossip. Oh, I don't want to talk too much about our private business. But, this or that. Oh, reluctant to talk about it. Oh. But then when they knock down the house of cards in the next stage, the discard stage, well, now, there's a confessional or there's a trial, family meeting. What do we do about this awful behavior, this awful person who we need to exile now? And then there's the Hoover, which is where they try to get you back. And yeah, after, 4 or 5 narcissists, I didn't know what these things were, but it just clicks. Like, that's what it is. So, all this raising the issues and whatnot, it's basically not helpful ever to respond. Although, the way I respond over social media, it is we're new territory here. Because one of the things I'm doing with the Homeless Data Project is saying that accountability is expensive, because it is. Where do I keep all this video footage, right? Oh, well, you just buy a hard drive. Well, if you're a homeless guy, you can't really afford a hard drive. Maybe you have hard drives, but you're outside and it's got to be like a industrial grade hard drive to withstand the weather. And then you just never really have the security of, will I get robbed at night or this or that, right? Will I get arrested for something? And then the police take it away, then the police scan it all, this and that. So, yeah, accountability is expensive, and social media is possibly a tool that we can leverage to change the game. I'm always an optimist, and to the point of maybe being delusional. But, for all the downsides people talk about social media, I think there's just as many upsides. It's a tool. Every tool has multiple uses. Some can be beneficial, some can be detrimental or malicious. So, on these raising issues or responding, if the attack happens in public, then I need to respond in public. That's the absolute coward way to do, and that's how I lost one of my brothers. Was, it was during pandemic. I was so poor, I could not afford to, phone service, much less, it was like making the choice between food and phone service sort of things. So, yeah, I call him because I'm expecting maybe I'm going to have a trip to his area for, my mom died. And it was during pandemic. They wanted to have a bigger funeral, so it's I was just kind of in limbo, waiting to come back until the funeral, because I didn't want to. One of my personal boundaries is I will not live with or work for an alcoholic, right? So, if you're on the street, I think you can compromise your boundaries a little bit, buddy. Like I've been talking about, it's worse living with an alcoholic. I can't even call it living with, staying with an alcoholic, because, you're just at the whim of their emotions and you can be thrown onto the street at any time, as opposed to you're already on the street. I've been over this so much in the past. I know I need to pardon the likes. I know I need to catalog these things, and I think AI will be useful for helping me do that. It's always been sort of a thought in the back of my mind, being a computer scientist, knowing AI is not too far off. But anyway, I digress on that point. Trying to keep these under 20 minutes. Where are we at? 10 minutes. Nice. So, if it happens in public, I need to respond in public. If it's a parent or old friend, ideally I don't give them any clout off the matter. And by old friend, brother. Oh yeah, anyway, so the story with the old friend. Yeah, so I finally got into a motel, after, the pandemic was fading away, and I made a post on Instagram, and what happens? He responds to my post on Instagram, and then I privately again go talk to him, and he sends me a screenshot of him sending me a text. I'm like, okay, I didn't get the text. My phone was shut off that day, and then he blocked me, and he wouldn't respond to me anymore. So that's a smear campaign, right on, because back, Instagram was a thing when I used it, at least for people just who knew each other in real life. So all of our mutual friends saw this. All of my friends in new groups saw this and started responding to it, and that's when the tune or tone of my Instagram really changed. So this is it kills a bunch of opportunities. A bunch of people unfollowed me. So the smear campaign, who knows what was happening behind the scenes? I can only imagine what was happening behind the scenes. But I know for sure, I'm not going to sit here and talk about all the whole situation. But I call him looking for a place to stay during my mom's funeral because I don't want to stay with an alcoholic parent. B, he texts me back saying he has some job opportunities. C, a few months later, he posts on my Instagram saying that I don't have the balls to respond and that I'm just trying to, get money out of him. So, no second text, no call, no anything, just a public call out. Absolute coward. So, and then not responding anymore. So, I'm always willing to bury the hatchet, but it's obviously malicious. I'm not telling the whole story here or saying who it is. But yeah, if it's if it's a parent or old friend, ideally I don't give them any of the clout off the matter, as people with more wealth will typically not attack. It benefits attackers to call them out by name, right? So, oh, you're just a homeless guy, you don't have any wealth. So there's many kinds of wealth, from monetary to intellectual to social, etc., etc. So my social wealth is obviously dwindled from all these smear campaigns. My intellectual wealth is, it's one of the only things I can control, and so it's the only wealth I really maintain. My physical body, my health, as much as I can, I do dumbbells and everything, but if I'm without food, if I can't lift, I'm getting skinny again because I can't afford food now. And so when I do have food, I might fast for a day, 2, 3. Oh, San Francisco wrist, right? And obviously I'm not going to be lifting up dumbbells during that time, but I come back to it, they're just getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And sorry for the and all I'm eating is potatoes, rice and beans, occasional bananas, occasional sweet potato. I have the receipts. Oh, you're just putting on and show. Yeah, project onto me. Have fun with that. So, yeah, the smear campaigns are set up to exploit your condition, right? So I'm a homeless guy who is desperate and this and that, so he makes it look like I don't want to work, like I'm trying to trick him out of money. So now nobody, if I reach out to anybody, they're going to be like, oh, I've heard about you. That's, getting into what a smear campaign is. Who knows what else they're saying, So, what I say above is like how to respond to smear campaigns, or based on who it is. This is consistently how I've acted, while others, people doing the smearing, and just what it looks like. If I how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So if I'm responding to my employer in the open, I'll respond to anyone who comes at me in the open. And there's other old friends who have just been acquaintances or classmates or whatever who've tried to smear me. I've said nothing. I've not gone crazy on them in the DMs, which I have gone crazy on some of my old brothers in the DMs and texts before I knew what stonewalling was. I didn't understand how they would do things to me and then boom, ghost. And yeah, that pissed me off. And I wouldn't do that if it was a woman. I wouldn't do that if it was anything less than an old brother, right? If it's a parent, sure. If it's a manager or an employer, sure. If it's a brother, sure. Anyone else, no response. Maybe write it down in case they come back and do something crazy later. So, have I gone crazy? No, there are just smear campaigns running. And so what people see with me responding to the public smear campaigns, the HR process, that's manager to employer. Employer stonewalls me, raise it to public. They go to court, take me to court, raise it to public. Right? Old friend or brother, bring it up but not by name. Respond to them until they block me. I had another coworker do a similar thing, and I responded to him and he blocked me. Whereas I had sent him a DM privately first. He didn't respond to that, but then he responds in public. Like, sorry for the likes. I've recovered before. I have ideas about why it's happening. Don't need to get into it here. So a good smear campaign will make my behavior line up with the narrative of crazy. So basically what I just said. And the only reason to respond to old friends or brothers is because of the mutuals who you still care about, who I still care about, who are being misled from my light. So who knows who these people are in our soul groups and this and that. And you hate to lose people. But on the other hand, a lot of times with the smear campaign, you just have to cut everyone that was associated with the smear. And maybe some people will come back later when they figured it out. Because the truth will always come out. But when a lot of times an empathic person who's almost always an empathic person who's almost always the, I guess, target. I don't know what con word I was going to use. But the target of a smear campaign is usually an empathic person who has a lot of light from within. There's two consciousness in the world. There's God's consciousness, and that comes out through empathic people, so-called. It's a spectrum. There's not empath, narcissist, binary. There's a spectrum of empathy or not. Everyone has some narcissistic tendencies. But people get to a certain point that, at least in the Bible, it's called the reprobate, where God can't even get through to them. No empathy, etc., etc. The cluster B, the psychopaths, the narcissists, etc., etc. They're obviously not scary looking. They're, often quite charming, have good reputations in the community, this and that. I mean, I could be accused of being a narcissist or a psychopath or this and that because I was very much a people pleaser. I was groomed by narcissists. And I probably did have some narcissistic tendencies that I just picked up because that's what worked, and I wasn't taught anything different. And because I never saw anything different, I never saw, you know, I think my mom was probably empathic too, because so many things that she said about my sperm donor slash her husband just ring into my ears when these things happen. I'm like, oh, she was experiencing these different smear campaigns. She was having the life squeezed out of her, you know? Like, for the record, I still think my sperm donor slash her husband killed her for life insurance money during the pandemic when autopsies were suspended. I still think that happened. Right? I'm allowed to have that opinion. I haven't seen anything, you know. Anyway, that's beyond the point. Oh, that's you smearing your sperm donor, right? So I know. I'm allowed to have that opinion, and it's consistent with what I see. And I've been more than willing. I've given him a discount on talking to me without drinking for just one day. My normal rule is if we have a problem and you want to talk with me, you've got to fast from alcohol for 30 days. You've got to clean out your system. I'm always in that state. I had a beer at a conference well over a month ago, right? So having, you know, occasional alcohol or whatever, if someone has an issue with me and they're an occasional, you know, they happen to have had a drink, a glass of wine, whatever, in the last month, I'm not so worried. But it's the fact that alcohol takes like 125 hours to get out of your brain. That's like 5 days. And so if you're drinking day after day after day after day after day, it's not going to be cleared out in 125 hours. It's literal fecal matter in your brain, you know, the crap for brains stereotype. I must be running over a half an hour by now, sorry. And I think I have like a whole video on that subject, or I've taken notes for one. So, you know, I can only connect it in saying, yeah, that sounds like a smear campaign that you're running, buddy. You're smearing them to the public. And it's like with stonewalling. If a person refuses to meet you, you know, in the middle, or, you know, refuses to accept your offer and give a counteroffer, then they're being belligerent. And for me, I've long given them the offer, go 1 day without drinking and we can talk. Now it's back up to 30 days. There's no discount anymore. So, you know, obviously I've experienced smear campaigns from all these people, so I'm not sitting here like trying to... I'm telling you there's a lot of other ways to learn about smear campaigns on YouTube, and there's a lot of other ways to learn about the stages of narcissistic abuse, and those have been so helpful to me. I've started my Narc Abuse 411 site, which I started trying to post daily links, and then it turned into weekly, and I still have all the links. I'm just not focused on posting them. It's another habit to build, and you need to really build one habit at a time. So I still have all the links. I still collect links every day that I want to share about my versions of what's useful to all these things. But, you know, I can really say, I haven't seen this mentioned before, is how to respond to smear campaigns from different people. Like the fact that you should respond or not differently based on who it's coming from. And, you know, to me, it's about if it's affecting my business. It's about if it's keeping our mutual friends in the dark who I feel loyal to. And it's about not, you know, doing it as privately as possible. If it escalates to public, then at least don't give them any clout off it. And, you know, as long as you're righteous, you don't really have to worry about any of these, because no weapon formed against the righteous shall prosper. The weapon can form but not prosper. But if it's an employer, or, you know, there are certain people who it's just so evil to come from that you have to call them out. It's not gossip. One could say that, well, it's not slander if it's true. It's not gossip. And it's, you know, it definitely looks like a smear campaign. Narcissists are chameleons, and so their smear campaigns are actually perverted inversions of righteously calling out people who do wrong. And final thing, and then I'll close, is, let he who is let he who is without sin cast the first stone. I wish I could remember who did this analysis, but it stuck with me. It's not that you have no sin when you cast a stone, it's that you don't have the sin of the person who you're casting the stone at. So, in the case where Jesus was like, cast the stone then, guys, you can bet all these guys are probably partaking in adultery, which is what the woman's being accused of, right? So, contextually, I think that's more the case. It might have been Owen Benjamin, the comedian, who made that connection, but it's something I saw in like the last 3 or 6 months or so, and it stuck with me. So, yeah, calling people out, responding to it can look like a smear campaign. And if they've done the smear campaign right, they've breadcrumbed you. That's another thing you can look at, narcissistic breadcrumbing, into believing that legitimate behavior in response to it or to figure out what's going on is you running a smear campaign on the narcissist. And going to energetic hygiene yesterday, I forgot what I was going to reference in there. But really sorry about all the likes and in that one. I'm aware and doing something about it. And I know we've run over 20 minutes, and it is what it is. So thanks for joining again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.